And so while we have our mayor who focuses on what happens in the greater Des Moines area, the city services, we also have a governor who focuses on somewhat, maybe, I don't know, on city issues, but certainly on state issues and then federal issues as well. And so there is that dichotomy where we have our local government of a major city in a state where, you know, perhaps local issues have a differing priority to someone who's looking at the state. You see that also in the Chicago area, where Chicago dominates commerce and culture and economic vitality in the state of Illinois, but then decisions are made downstate in Springfield. You see that with New York. You have New York City, a major city in the state of New York, but then decisions are created by Albany, and then there's also pressure from upstate how to allocate services and funds, and who has larger influence on policy making. Also in Texas, where you have an interesting setup, you have the capital city where state issues are decided in Austin, but then a lot of economic commerce happens in Houston and Dallas, and so those are relatively, I would say, conservative in terms of social aspects, but then on economic matters, they do dominate that state. And so it depends on where you are, I guess, which policies you drive the most energy towards. And so there is that kind of interplay between our local government and then our state government too. I did do some filming outside of Des Moines City Hall. I looked at the infrastructure of the streets and the bridges around our City Hall, and then panned my camera up towards the state capitol. It was just all very interesting contrast there. But anyway, that was in Iowa World when I did that episode, which was probably episode 23, if I'm remembering correctly.
Call your legislators and let them know that this stuff does matter, quality of life does matter, quality of public safety matters, and that the kind of draconian cuts that they're suggesting are going to have huge impacts on our ability to deliver those services. And while we talk about raising those taxes, as much as was estimated we'd have to fill that gap, I'm not sure that legally we even have the ability to do that without emergency levies and all kinds of other things. So we're left sort of in the lurch and unable to respond, and we have not been able to have reasonable discussions, in my opinion, with all the legislators to discuss the consequences of these kinds of cuts.
All right, so that's community development policy. We're on to food, which is also a very significant issue here in Iowa. We're the breadbasket, we're the agricultural center. Food takes a large focus here in the state of Iowa. So some positive aspects of food policy that's happening here. A collection of ag food groups wants to be Iowa Games sponsor. That's the Des Moines Register, and I'll show you that title right there. And it says the 25th anniversary Summer Iowa Games to be held in Ames and Des Moines this year will have the Iowa Food and Family Project as presenting sponsor. The Food and Family Project is driven by the Iowa Soybean Association and includes other commodity groups, food producers, and restaurants to promote Iowa agriculture. No financial details were provided, but longtime sponsors of the Iowa Games, Hy-Vee, Iowa Health Systems, and the Iowa Food Bank Association will remain in their sponsorship roles. Governor Terry Branstad weighed in. He said that when he spearheaded the beginning of the Iowa Games in the 1980s, the state was mired in an agricultural recession, and I did not know that, but I'm finding that we're learning a lot about what we've forgotten, what happened the first time when Terry Branstad was in office, we learned that through my research, I learned that, and I think this came out during the wind episode, which is episode 2 of Blue.Green.Fusion, way back last fall. I did some research and I discovered that it was under Terry Branstad's administration in 1983 that Iowa developed the renewable energy standard. That was under his watch. It was not fully enforced, but it did set the groundwork for us to become the wind energy superpower, second only to Texas, that we've become. And so now that we learned that Terry Branstad was also involved in the very first Iowa Games, and that was also in response to an agricultural recession. The Iowa Food and Family Project is the latest involvement by Iowa's roster of agriculture and food industries in sports sponsorships. The Iowa Corn Growers Association has taken over sponsorship of the Cy Hawk Trophy Series between Iowa State University and the University of Iowa. The Corn Growers Group also sponsors the Indy Car Race held annually at the Iowa Speedway in Newton. Good deal.
Opening day at the Des Moines Downtown Farmers Market. This is 5th and Court. This is the market. I see bicyclists, I see musicians, I see stalls, I see restaurants that have decided to have a booth, and soon I think I'm going to see produce.
Alright, the next article is 4 new murals celebrate Borlaug's life. We've talked about Norman Borlaug and his tremendous contribution to food policy around the world, but we can claim him here in the state of Iowa, which brings us joy. And I talked about that in the food episode, which I think was episode 5, also last fall. Let's see. A team of artists perched on a scaffold nearly 40 feet above the floor to put the finishing touches Thursday on 4 murals in the rotunda of the World Food Prize Hall of Laureates. They commissioned some art for that 1903 building that used to house the Des Moines Public Library. The cloud-top landscapes represent 4 regions close to the heart of the late agronomist and World Food Prize founder Norman Borlaug. His farm at Cresco and scenes from Mexico, South Asia, and Africa, where his work to increase crop yields led the way for the so-called Green Revolution. So the $30 million renovation is slated to finish in time for the annual World Food Prize celebration in October. And that includes more than $3.5 million for artwork from artists from Iowa and elsewhere, which is terrific. I actually took my camera when I was filming City Hall. I also filmed construction at the World Food Prize. Norman Borlaug is very important. He breathes the same rare air that Mother Teresa and Martin Luther King Jr. breathe. He's probably not as well known, but he's one of those figures who's had a tremendous impact on many, many lives. And so that's why we celebrate him. Certainly this fall, in October.
Artists and artisans. Reinhardt's Family Farm. They're selling honey. Harvest Barn, fudge, beef sticks, beef and pork and cheese. All natural, they say. You see pretzels, you see flowers, you see goat cheese.
So the next article is also from the Des Moines Register, and helpfully enough, the Des Moines Register decided to give us approximately 22 tips to stretch our food dollars. This comes from the April 14th edition of the Des Moines Register, and it says that Monica Thompson and her family spent last weekend planting a vegetable garden in their small Indianola backyard. They planted lettuce, spinach, carrots, radishes, onions, and peas, and plan to add cabbage, green beans, peppers, tomatoes, squash, eggplant, and melons. and 3 raised garden beds. That should see them well into the fall. They're a family of 6.